Dear sock knitting, it has and always will be you. You were the one from the very start. My love of you brought other knitting into my life, but you will always be my first. You wooed me. You enticed me with the intoxicating variety of your self-patterning yarns, not to mention the promise of perfect fitting socks. How could I resist you? In the beginning, I knew you were too much for me. I had fooled around with knitting before, but I could tell that I wasn't ready for all the challenges and baggage you might bring to our relationship. I tried to put you out of my head, I did. For a month or so, I distracted myself by having a fling with a garter stitch scarf. We started out with gusto, but by the fringed end, I knew it was over. She was acrylic and novelty yarn, and I knew it could never last. I couldn't get you out of my mind, though. Even when we were apart, I was looking for beginner patterns that might help us get acquainted. I got a small Vogue sock knitting book, but the instructions appeared to make things complicated, and I didn't need that kind of drama. Then I stumbled upon the December 2004 issue of Martha Stewart Living, and I thought this might be the perfect first date for us, a plain sock. I asked you out for coffee with a chaperone, my friend Becky, and I started to get to know you. That night, when I snuggled you into my project bag and took you home, it just felt right, and I've really never looked back. To be honest, sock knitting, in the beginning, I feared we might not make it. You didn't seem to trust me with your fiddly needles. You tormented me by telling me to join to work in the round, being careful not to twist the tiny stitches. Well, quite frankly, I sensed you were testing my devotion. But man, oh man, when I turned that first heel, I knew right then and there I felt smart and capable when I was with you, as if I could do anything. When I finally pulled on that first finished pair, I could tell we were a match made in heaven. You are worth every single challenge you've put before me, and I have the sock drawer to prove it. I'm all in sock knitting. Now, as we approach our 15th year together, you still excite me. Every new cast on holds hope, promise, and optimism. Sure, there have been bumps in the road. Second sock syndrome has challenged us more than once, but we're still going strong, and we're still evolving. Indie dyers and afterthought heels have definitely spiced up our love life. Who knows what the future holds? New patterns, cables, 2 at a time, texture, toe up. It doesn't matter as long as we're together. I'll take you everywhere with me. You're in my handbag and in my heart. I love you, sock knitting, and I want the world to know it. With all my crafty heart, Heidi. I'm Heidi. Welcome to Love Letters to Crafting, the podcast where I extol all of the virtues of all of my crafty loves. Today is my first letter to sock knitting. I'm coming to you from Gateway to the Midwest, Gateway to the West, St. Louis, Missouri. It's the first chilly day and it's a little overcast, but it is the perfect time to grab a warm mug of something and have a chat with my friends about sock knitting. As you can tell, I feel very strongly about sock knitting. I love it, and I think you probably love it too. So thanks for joining me, and let's get started. I wanted to tell you that sock knitting is to me what the Scarecrow is to Dorothy. It's Dorothy's first love, and it's my first love. It was the gateway drug to knitting for me. That's really why I wanted to start knitting. I wanted to knit socks because they are portable, and the fact that you can start and finish an entire wearable garment with one string and some needles is amazing to me. And it did make me feel smart, and it did make me feel capable, and it did make me want to just keep going. So I'm going to show you some of my socks. This is the sock that started it all. This was my Martha Stewart sock. I cast on for it a million times because I couldn't figure out how to join in the round. But my friend Becky said, why did you keep doing the same thing over and over? And it's because I couldn't figure it out. But I was a newbie knitter, and I didn't really know all the ins and outs of techniques and things. So I only knit a very short amount of ribbing because I ran out of steam. I'm like, I need to get on to this long leg. And I did a heel flap and gusset. This heel turn made me feel very smart. And then I did the toe that was described in the Martha Stewart pattern that I talked about, which is reduce until you end up doing like the top of a hat, and then you just, and it's not my favorite toe because if you can see that, it ends up getting a little played out. I've never had to mend these, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't mend them and wear them. They're my first pair, and I haven't kept a lot of my first knits, but I did keep this because this was an accomplishment. This was my first true sock. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And I loved it so much that I immediately cast on for my next sock. I had been reading for a very long time Posy Gets Cozy, Alicia Paulson's blog. And she showed a pair of socks that she had knit with this yarn, and I loved the yarn right away, and I had to find it. And luckily a local yarn store here in St. Louis had it, and I wish I still had the ball band for this. These are what I call my Neapolitan coconut candy perfectionism socks. Because when I finished this first sock and I started my second sock, I noticed that the stripes weren't lined up. And I ended up ripping out the entire leg and going back to the top because I knew it was going to bother me. It wouldn't bother some people, but I knew it was going to bother me. And I've evolved since then. I don't think that I would do that now. Now I'm like, they don't have to match exactly. They can be sort of matching. They can be sisters. They don't have to be twins. So this sock, though, I really, really, really was excited about this sock. As you can see, the fit's not great. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it took a long time to get to the point where I was making socks that felt like they fit me perfectly, like they were my socks, that I wasn't just knitting socks and then hoping they would fit. I had to figure out how many stitches I needed to cast on for my foot, how long it needed to be, how much the gusset needed to decrease. You know, sometimes people have wider calves and they need to decrease more stitches in the foot because they have a skinny foot, or vice versa. So it took me a while to get to the point where I felt like the socks that I was knitting were for me, and they weren't just a shot in the dark. And hopefully they would fit me. And, you know, because you put a lot of work into these precious babies. And what happens, I mean, I've gifted some socks that didn't fit in the end. That's okay too. Then other people get to know and love hand-knitted socks. My daughter-in-law, for example, when I make a sock that doesn't fit me exactly, she has smaller feet than I do, and she's like, yeah, bring it on. I'll take your cast-offs. That's cool. I love it. So, but this was my second sock, and this is what started my love of some self-patterning yarn. Yeah, this is, to me, this is so pretty, so gorgeous, and it makes you look like you've done all the work. They're like the Rice Krispie treats of socks. that they look like they took you a long time in the kitchen. You might throw a little flour on your face and let people think that you did a lot of work, but no, really, these just come out the same as a plain sock. So, yes, socks. I love socks. So I'd like to share a recent pair of finished socks with you. These are by far the tallest socks I've ever made for myself. These are made out of a mystery skein. I got some yarn from someone in a D-stash, and they threw this yarn in, this main color yarn in, as a nice thank you gift for frequenting her D-stash. So I did what is my sock recipe for my own socks is I cast on using my contrast color, using a size 0 needle. I cast on 68 stitches, and I usually knit a lot more ribbing at the top. I usually knit about 20 rows of ribbing at the top, but I didn't know if I was going to have enough of this contrast color to knit all the heels, toes, and cuffs that I wanted to. So I only did maybe 10 rows of 2x2 ribbing, and then I knit 1 row in the contrast color in plain stockinette. I think that minimizes any kind of weird jog you have when you switch to the main color. When I switched to the main color, I also switched to size 1 US 1 needles. And then I wanted to see how long I could knit this sock, and I wanted to try and use up the majority of the yarn. And I ended up stopping because I didn't know if the calf was going to fit, if it was going to be too tight at the top. And this is probably the longest that I could knit the calf without increasing the stitches at the top. And since I go top down, I'm not a huge fan of toe up socks. I was just a guessing game. So I knit as much as I could. I put in the contrast toe, just a wedge toe. I decreased down to 14 stitches, and then I Kitchener the toe together. And then I did a true afterthought heel. I used Kirby Werby's directions, and I cut in my knitting to use the afterthought heel. I love that. Honestly, that Kirby Werby heel has revolutionized my sock knitting. I don't want to overstate that, but I don't enjoy the process of a heel flap and gusset. This fits me just great. I can put it exactly where I want it to be, and it fits me perfectly. A heel flap and gusset is fine too, but I feel like it's a little bit wide for my heel. So this is snug on my heel, and it doesn't slip around, and I really, really like it. I like the way it looks. I love this line of decreases. I love how it matches the toe. It's my preferred heel now. And I have cranked out, like literally knit so many pairs of socks since I switched over to this afterthought heel that I don't think I'll ever go back. I've tried the Fish Lips Kiss heel, and a lot of people swear by it, and maybe I didn't do it often enough to really know if I loved it or not, but this is my preferred heel. So, yeah, my most recent finished object, my most recent finished sock object. I love these colors, and I think they're going to go great this fall with jeans and boots with my cuffs rolled up on my jeans. I think it's going to be great. And I do kind of like how this pooling has happened here. I think if it was a darker color, I don't know if I would love that, but I love it in this light colored yarn. It's subtle. I like it. Subtle, subtle, subtle. So let's talk about my socks that are on my needles right now. My current sock knitting project is living in this project bag that I made. I'm a new convert to the sock sack sort of, and I really like it. I like it. I like the drawstring. It looks tidy. I like it. So right now I'm working on these lovely babies. The this is a sock set from Loft 22. Here's her card. And this is the Magical Island colorway. It's a sock set, as I said, and yeah, it's really lovely yarn. The colorway is and name is Anne with an E, inspired. So this, I mean, as you can tell, I adore this color, and I really, really like this. And I'm going to do a afterthought heel and a contrasting toe with this contrast color. I just really like it a lot. And I would say that all of my sock knitting is accomplished in the car. My husband and I commute to work together, and he does all the driving and I do all the knitting. So I love this, and it is more of my standard sock pattern. It is, I cast on 68 stitches and 2x2 ribbing for, I think I did this one for 15 rows. Maybe I did 20, but 15 rows. One row of the contrast color in stockinette, and then just knit on till morning. Yeah, isn't that so pretty? I like speckles, as you can see. So I can't wait to get these going and wear them. I think they'll be really pretty with dark boots and maybe a long skirt. I think that'll be really nice. Yeah. I hope I have a pair of socks to wear every day, a different pair of socks every day for the whole fall. I don't have that many yet, but I could. Soon I could. So, future sock knitting. I have a long wish list of sock patterns and yarn that I'd love to use. I have a birthday coming up, and I'd like to cast on a special pair of socks for my birthday. So someone online, I have her name written down in my notes here. She had knit a pair, and I'll put it on the screen or in the notes down below. She had knit a pair of knee socks, and I have always wanted to knit knee socks, but most of the patterns that are online are for toe-up knee socks, and as I said, I'm not a huge, gigantic fan of toe-up socks. There's just something about and I'm sure with an afterthought heel I could make that work, but I just really like the construction of top-down. And so she came up with a recipe, and I direct messaged her and asked her if she would share it with me, and she said she would. And so I am going to cast on a pair of knee socks. And I've been saving the yarn in this project bag that I made, my special birthday project bag. Anyway, I love all these fabrics, and I loved them together, and I thought this is the perfect bag for a knee sock pattern. Oh, her name is Eve, EVE _knits 223 on Instagram. That's her Instagram handle. And this is her pattern. This is the yarn I'm going to use. It is from the yarn jar. That's her card. And the name of the colorway is Let's Be Unicorns. There's her little unicorn progress keeper. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. And this is her 4-ply fingering weight. It's 75-25 superwash merino and nylon. It's 460 yards. I think 460 yards is going to be plenty for a pair of knee socks for me. I have gigantic feet. I wear US size 11, but I still think if I use a contrasting color for the heels, toes, and cuffs, that I'll have plenty of this yarn left. I mean, golly gee. This is good, right? It's going to be so pretty. So this is the main color. It'll be striped. And then this will be the contrast color. And this is a Leading Men Fiber Arts mini skein that I got in a mini skein bundle at Stitches Midwest in August this year. It was my first time going to Stitches Midwest, and oh my gosh, my husband went with me, and he went and sat at a table at the back and read magazines and the newspaper while I shopped around and got completely overwhelmed. But it was very good, and I would, if you can go to a yarn event, I know lots of people go to yarn events. This was like only my third yarn event, and I thought it was a great experience. I wished that I had been brave enough to introduce myself to more of the indie dyers that were there, but it was a really good experience, and the sheer amount and the variety and just how much you can see and compare, it was really a great experience, and I loved it. So Christmas knitting. I do have Christmas knitting on the brain as well, but these are birthday sock cast on. But it's also almost fall, Halloween, and I have one pair of Halloween socks that I knit last year, and I love them. They're beautiful. Well, I'm gonna go get them. Okay, hold on. Okay, so these are my licorice and circus peanut socks. That's the name I came up with. Yeah, I really like these. And I like orange and purple together, and there's a little bit of acidy green in there. I just really like those. I like this. And I wanted to have more of this sort of colorway for the upcoming October holiday. So I have pulled a few skeins and have set them aside in my project bag to choose my next Halloween pair of socks. So I'm just going to show you a few of these skeins that I have. This is a skein from Stranded Dye Works. This is her Oasis base. I know that Amy is in the process of renaming all of her bases so that they more accurately reflect the base contents. And her Oasis base is actually a sock base, a fingering weight 75/25 superwash merino nylon. And this colorway is Bright Night. So it is also beautiful oranges, purples, some black speckles, this neon green. I think these would be so pretty knitted up. I think I'd put it together with maybe this green contrast, maybe heels, toes, and cuffs in that color. I think that'd be really nice. So that is one possibility. My next choice, I got this skein last year at SSK. This is Knitty in Color. And this colorway is Haunted Harvest. Hardcore sock. It's 75% merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards. That's a generous skein. Look at that. Those purples, those speckles, also that burnt orange. Really fallish. There's more of those beautiful speckles down here. I think it's great. So, choice number 3. It's going to be hard to narrow this down. Can you tell? Maybe I should have you vote. This is Mustache Yarns. This is a self-striping perfect sock set. So it's 2 half skeins that are wound together so that when you cast on, your socks will match perfectly. And this is also 75/25. These are this is like back to school colors, right? These might need to be on my needles sooner than for Halloween. And my final skein I got this year at SSK, and she is really one of my favorite indie dyers. I love all of her self-striping yarns. The name of her company is Rock and String Creations. She's from Kentucky. So this is her, what's the name of it? Meow. I love this. Really love this. Everything about this. I honestly, I saw her sample knit up, and it convinced me I needed to make these socks. Yeah, that yarn is so gorgeous. I just think it's so pretty. So I have my work cut out for me, but I just wanted to talk to you about one of my truest crafty loves, and that's sock knitting. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I think I want to write more love letters to crafting. We'll see how this goes. As most of you know, that this is a hard thing to do, to talk to yourself and pretend that you're talking to lots and lots of people. But I want to join in this conversation. I want to get to know people out there a lot better. I want to be brave and get connected with you. So I hope that you like my video, and I hope to see you again really soon. Thanks, and happy sock knitting.